for not only ourselves, but for the citizens of Caddo Parish. Father, we ask that you will watch over the men and women that serve in our great country, that protect us day in and day out. We ask all these things in your Son, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
I'll say this pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Lennon Johnson and Vice President Cawthorn. Appreciate that. We're moving on to our next item. Mr. Hopkins, I believe it's agenda additions. I have none. Do you have any?
No, sir, I have no cards.
Okay, we'll move to citizens' comments. Citizens who wish to address the commission must fill out a comment card and forward it to myself or the clerk of the commission. I have no comments cards. Do you have any?
No, sir.
Okay, moving on to our next item.
There's one, sir, from the councilman.
Mr. Bradford?
Yes, sir.
You can come on up. You have 3 minutes, sir. You can give us your name. You don't have to give us your address, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Willie Bradford. I reside at 3026 Independence Avenue, Shreveport 71109. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and to the distinguished body of commissioners. I'm here once again to appeal to you to support the resolution that's on your agenda today for the disparity study. I addressed the Economic Development Committee 2 weeks ago, letting them know that the City Council of Shreveport passed a resolution similar to yours last year to partially fund the economic disparity study. With your assistance, we would have the necessary funds to move forward with commissioning it. I think we can work out the details as it relates to how we get the RFPs out and how we would select the consultant that will perform the duty. Now, we did have a consultant to address the city, selected members of the city council to give us the overall overview on why this is necessary for this city and for this parish. The numbers are staggering when it comes to minority participation in the city and as well as in the parish. As you know, Baton Rouge, the mayor, and the city of New Orleans have already initiated the commissioning of the parish study. And being the third largest city and parish in the state, I think it would do us well. The numbers are there. The statistics are there. The documentation has been done. All we need now is the necessary funding so that we can move forward with this. I won't get into the detail, Mr. Chairman, but I think the committee really discussed it in full. I was appreciative of of the parish attorney as well as with your fair share coordinator, who I thought gave excellent input in regards to how the parish would also benefit in this legislation. So I feel that you would move forward. Let's move forward as a city and a parish and make this a very inclusive section of this state to where all of our citizens can benefit from things that is offered. And I think your assistance will be well recognized, in what you would do here when you vote on this on Thursday would be a great step in the direction that will make this parish and this city a better place for everybody. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman. Okay, and that's all the public comments. Mr. Hopkins, moving on to our next item.
Next, we move to visitors. Mr. Bill Blair, Director of Demographic Services for the Louisiana State Legislature. Mr. Blair contacted us this morning. He was not able to leave Baton Rouge. He asked to be put on sometime in September.
What did? How did it get put on? No one contacted me. I don't know what it's about.
Through the Register of Voters office.
Okay. All right, moving to our next item.
Next, Mr. Kelly Wells, Director of Shreveport-Bossier Sports Commission.
How you doing, Kelly?
Doing good.
Nice to see you.
Good to be here.
go ahead and give us your name and
Yes, Kelly Wells, Executive Director, Shreveport-Bossier Sports Commission, and just really want to come out this afternoon, kind of update you guys on what's going on, and ladies. First of all, thank Commissioner Johnson, and I believe y'all just reappointed Ken Annie maybe a week or two ago, and so they've done a phenomenal job governing us. Secondly, I just want to thank y'all for not just being a governing body, but also a working body. And so almost every commissioner up here we've had a chance to work with, and whether it's helping with financial support or time or whatever else. And so I know we did some neat things. One of our initiatives this year was not only to do stuff in Shreveport-Bossier, but really to get out in the rural areas. And so I know we worked with Commissioner Johnson on the Glow at Greenwood, I believe the Thursday, July the 12th, right before the balloon rally. And I know we did the Monster Truck Nationals, and I don't think Boot Hill Speedway and the City of Greenwood and the Commission had ever really worked together. And so he kind of glued that together. I know Henri brought some equipment out, so that was a really successful event at the end of June. And then there was a big Cowboy Church rodeo that I didn't get to go out to, I think back in May, but I think it set a record attendance with that Cowboy Church out in Greenwood. So we knew when we went out, and we met with Blanchard and Benton and some of these other, Houghton, and so we're still working on some other things, but there were so many potentials out there. And of course with the Speedway being out there right off the interstate, that just really worked out well. And we've got a wrap-up meeting that Commissioner's going to be at here coming up soon. Caddo Lake, and I know President Dominic, it's kind of his neck of the woods. A couple cool things that are going on in October. We're going to have the Fishers of Men regional tournament back out there. And the neat thing with Caddo, with being both Texas and Louisiana, it'll actually be the Texas regionals, but we get to host that. I think we did it 2 or 3 years ago, so there'll be 80 to 100 fishermen out there in October. And again, that's a great time to have people on Caddo Lake. It's pretty good bass fishing during that time frame. We also announced at the, and I wasn't there, the ICAST in Florida, Kayak Bass Fishing Nationals will be coming to the Shreveport-Bossier area, and Caddo Lake will be one of those fisheries that they're fishing, along with Wallace Lake and Cypress Pike Bay and the Red River. That's now the largest fishing event in the country as far as nationals. There'll be about 800 to 1,000 kayaks there, and so that's something we're super excited about. They've been in Tennessee the last 3 years. So again, 3 years ago, that nationals had about 300 kayaks. This year, it'll be between 800 and 1,000. So we're excited about that. Red River Balloon Rally went real well back in July. Commissioner Middleton, it's nice to see you before. Well, I didn't see you till about 6-ish, but Teresa saw a little bit before that. But that was amazing success. We had 0 safety issues. We had record attendance. I think now next to Mardi Gras, it's probably the largest festival in the area. So they will be back. There was some confusion, but they will be back for the Southeast Regionals. And so whether it's the national or the regionals, it really doesn't matter to us or our folks. They just like seeing the balloons fly up. I know Commissioner Atkins has been involved with it for, I believe, all 3 years. And so if you went to the balloon rally and you saw the Darth Vader and the Yoda and the giant penguin and Rocky the Squirrel and one other, it's really a neat crowd favorite. It really complements the 40 balloons that are out there during the balloon glow. And again, thanking LSUS for a great time. I know Randy and the commission, they came out, or I don't think Randy did. I don't think I'd put him behind a mosquito sprayer. But they came out and sprayed and really helped out to make sure that it was a real inviting opportunity out there.
Animal mosquito control didn't go out.
Some other things that we did, that the sickle cell tournament was going on the same time as the balloon rally, and I know Commissioner Johnson was real involved with that. Talked to Roy Burrell and Lillian Bradford, and I think that event's been going on for 40 years. They had record attendance this year. Again, cargo was back in place, but we added fireworks for the first time. We added a kid zone and water zone and entertainment, and so I think they almost doubled their attendance, paid attendance this year for that, so that really helps. Again, a great event for us is the economic impact first and the quality of life, so we thought that was real strong. I wanted to bring Teresa up here too. She's our volunteer coordinator, and y'all know this from volunteering at events. She's got about a database of 2,000 that she's constantly updating, but again, we lend out our services and we're having to kind of pull that in because it's so popular. But I just wanted to tell you I think one specific balloon event, what volunteers can do for sporting events and other stuff.
Well, I believe I've been working with volunteers most of my life, and I believe volunteers are the heart of the community. Just at the balloon rally and nationals put together, we had over 240 volunteers that gave over 2,600 hours to our community. And we do communities, I mean, if you're driving around the road, you might see people picking up trash from Shreveport Green. So stop a minute when you're thinking about it. Our community is unique because we've got so many wonderful volunteers that give our time to make our community a better place, and I have the privilege of working with them every day. And yes, Mike, I saw you out there every morning. Mike crewed with one of the balloon crews, so he was up at the hotel at 4:30 with me every morning for like 5 days. So thank y'all so much for supporting us, but also feel privileged that we have so many wonderful people in Shreveport Bossier that give their time just because they believe in our community. So thank y'all so much.
Thank you.
And lastly, the Powerboat Nationals is coming up Labor Day weekend. It's really going to be the final end of summer bash, whatever you want to call it, but there's a lot of different stuff that are going on. The margarita pour-off will be going on. We're not really doing that, but it's going to be happening right over at Festival Plaza. Then on the Sunday, the Shreveport Blues Festival will be taking place. And so we're really kind of cross-promoting what's going on. The powerboat racing will be Saturday and Sunday. You can view that from either Riverfront Park or the Louisiana Boardwalk. So we've got the top 6 divisions of powerboats. So these boats go up to 150 miles an hour. On top of that, we'll have I didn't know what this was till Mario or Commissioner Chavez told me about hydrofoiling. So we've got the top-ranked hydrofoiler coming in from Florida. We've got the #1 hydro flyer. And so again, it's the most valuable piece of real estate in the area and the most visible for our visitors is that downtown Riverfront Park and the boardwalk. So the Waterway Commission is a really big partner of ours. The difference in the power boats and the fishing meets our economic impact, what we need to do, but a lot of that happens down south of Locken Dam and all that area. It's not real visible. So again, the power boats is going to be great, and it's visible, and we'd love for you to come out. Again, the racing will be from 12 to 6 on that Saturday and Sunday, September the 1st and 2nd, and then we'll crank up entertainment about 6:30 till about 10 o'clock both nights. So we'll have, I think, a total of 8 bands playing on both sides of the river. So we should have well over 100 watercraft. There's, I think, 10 or 12 houseboats that are coming from as far as Alexandria up for the weekend. So we were out over the weekend kind of weeding some of the sandbars around just above Margaritaville. So great weekend if you're a LSU fan. We know starting in September you can't have events if you're not televising the game. So we'll have a big screen set up behind the bands on Sunday night playing the LSU and Miami game. So, and Mario will be housing Gino all weekend, and some of those little things make a big difference when you've got a lot of folks coming in and just somebody you can trust that will really show off Shreveport Bossier like we try to do, and Caddo. Any questions?
Kelly, I don't know if anybody is up. You better raise your hand because I pressed the button. I'm not coming up, but I wanted to say thanks for all your hard work. And I've said this in the last couple of weeks. I've said that we don't necessarily have an NFL team here, but there are a lot of unique things that are going on. I've named this the Independence Bowl tennis tournament that recently came. We had the Dixie World Series that was in the Bossier area. We had recently had a large triathlon. Obviously, the Red River Balloon Rally, the Munster trucks, the fishing and the things that's going on, kind of a little bit out of the ordinary things. High school football is fixing to kick off. We'll hopefully have some stuff going on in Independence Stadium there. And so there are a lot of things that are going on. Appreciate your hard work. All those things do bring revenue and economic development to Shreveport and Caddo Parish. So appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kelly. Yes, sir. All right, we're moving on to our next items. I tell you what, if y'all don't mind, Lloyd Thompson is here. I think he brought in a card. I'd like to make a motion to suspend rules, allow him to come up here and make a comment, because I know he's probably going to be commenting about something on the item. Have a motion by Commissioner Lyndon Johnson, seconded by Mr. Cawthorn to suspend the rules, allow Mr. Thompson to come up. That will be by acclamation. Lloyd, how you doing today? I wanted you to talk because I figured you want to talk about the disparity thing, and
Right.
you know, the comments are after that, so I wanted you to have the opportunity to speak before we voted on it, okay?
Right. My name is Lloyd Thompson, 1315 Milam, represent the NAACP. Just wanted to come forward. I had the opportunity to come to one of the committee meetings dealing with the Spanish study. I'm fully supportive of it. I think it'd be a great opportunity to have this study done so we can see where we at doing business with women and minorities in this parish. And I appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak on behalf of that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you for coming today. And we're moving back into our regular agenda.
Next, we have reports, administrative report.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Commissioner. We have a presentation today concerning Louisiana Department of Public Safety and Corrections reentry grant. And today we have with us Ms. Julie Bass, Chief Operating Officer for Goodwill Industry, Chief Program Officer for Goodwill Industry, and also Ms. Lynn Stephen, Chief Operating Officer for United Way.
Okay. How y'all doing? Lynn, good seeing you again. Ms. Bass, nice seeing you. We'll turn it over to y'all for y'all's presentation at this time.
I'm going to start. So I'm Lynn Stevens. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at United Way. And we have a really unique opportunity that's been presented to Caddo Parish in regards to the reentry process that is coming back to Caddo Parish pretty soon. For those of you who don't know, in 2017, Governor Edwards, when he signed some of his reentry proclamations and changes into law, part of that was to release ex-offenders back into our communities at a faster rate. And the cost savings for that would then be turned into community grants to actually work on prevention. And so Caddo Parish is one of 5 in the state that has been presented this opportunity. There's $3 million up for grabs that'll go to 5 parishes. We don't know at what level or anything, but what we do know is we do have ex-offenders that are coming back in 2019. Even though they're already coming, they're coming faster. And so I'm going to turn it over to Julie. What we're working on is a collective impact project. It'll be with Goodwill Industries doing employment services for these folks. Easter Seals doing all of the case management pieces. Volunteers of America doing the housing part of the pieces of the puzzle. What you may not know is Julie actually has been heading up the Reentry Coalition for about 18 years at Goodwill Industries. So it's an ad hoc group that we have been putting together, that we put together and has been operating quietly behind the scenes. And so we're way ahead of the curveball when it comes to going down this path and having a plan. And so, Julie?
All right. Well, thank you for hearing us today or listening to us. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Usually I'm kind of loud. Sometimes I don't need my, but yeah, thank you for listening. We're excited about this opportunity. This doesn't come around very often. The Department of Corrections has a really tight budget most of the time, so we're excited that we have the potential to get a pretty good chunk of money to help people returning to our community. Part of that is, you know, we've been talking to different groups. Probation and Parole gets about 2,500 new people a year that enlist with them. 775 of those are our target population, which is the high risk, high need, or high risk, moderate need folks. They are people with felonies. So we are targeting to work with them. We want to make sure they have a place to live. We want to make sure they have a job to go to. And we want to make sure they have the services they need in mental health or addiction and a case manager to help them solve those daily problems. We do not want them going back to do what they were doing to get them in jail in the first place. Currently, right now, about 55% of the people sitting in jail are there for their parole violation. So we want to keep them from getting back in trouble. One way to do that is to put them in a job. So we have a transitional employment piece. So they go to work as soon as they get out. We have a rapid rehousing model so that we can help them get into a place to live. Some of them are going to go home and live with mama. That may work out for a month, and then mama may not want them there. So we're prepared for that through the housing model. And we have mental health and addiction partners lined up. We have legal services lined up. We are planning to tackle transportation because transportation is huge when you get out, being able to get to places and go apply for jobs or get to and from work. So we're going to be prepared for that. We designed our plan based on community needs. The Reentry Coalition early this year did a community needs survey and went out and surveyed people providing services to reentry services, different nonprofits, different faith groups, and this is how we determined our needs that we actually decided to write this grant to cater to. So we're here today to ask for y'all's support and let you know that we're working on this and writing it, and we hope to make a difference in our community.
Commissioner Matthew Lynn, are you
I
done?
think one thing I'll just touch on is we're not creating any new services. These are all existing services that already exist in the community. We're just asking partners to do it differently, do it smarter. And so that is going to be great for this community in the long run.
One of the goals of the grants was to improve community coordination. So we've tapped different resources in our community and offering a chance to coordinate better to make reentry more seamless.
Commissioner Lynn?
And so I'm going to wrap a question in a statement and ask y'all to pull it out. So I've counseled people that were 43, went to jail at 18, came out of jail at the age of 43. They have zero skills, and they're a financial burden on their family, and their one common denominator that they all say is that the best thing that I could do to help my family is to get rearrested so that I'm no longer a financial burden on them. And so they are torn between, do they cause their family to go bankrupt paying parole officers and all of the fees that come with getting out of jail? So how are you reaching those particular people, and are you working with probation to notify them? Or are you catching them as soon as they get out of jail to identify them and their needs? And so would you go on a little bit?
Ideally, we would get them prior to release. Not all inmates are housed at Caddo that are returning to Caddo, so that may not be possible. We may get some once they hit probation and parole doors. We may get a call and a referral that way. We're currently working with Caddo Correctional Center to get inmates, and we would be working with the local probation and parole to get those that just hit their door right away. We're hoping to even camp out at probation and parole to get them as soon as they register, because they have 72 hours to come in and register, so we're hoping to get them at that mark if we can't get a referral prior to release. Part of the state's part of their justice reinvestment plan was to actually do reentry plans at 3 points prior to reentry, and they have a new system that they're going to be determining risk on called the Tagger. So we're hoping that the Tagger and the REAP will be in place and that we'll get that prior to release so we can immediately start plans. To help with the financial burden and returning home, we do have transitional work, which means I'm hoping that the day they get home, they can start work the next day. We've identified local nonprofits, and we plan to have them in transitional work up to 90 days. While we have job placement staff, they're actually out developing jobs in the community for them. So they won't do that. We did put money in for things like some fines and registration that they may have to do, inspection stickers, car insurance. A lot of times, get arrested, you leave your car, you don't pay your insurance, you get fines. Maybe you need an inspection sticker or maybe a first month insurance deposit to get back on the road. So we put money in for that. We're talking about doing welcome home baskets for when they get out, maybe containing some food, laundry detergents, and things like that. It's very common we get somebody to walk in our office that's fresh out of jail that says, do you have toothpaste? Do you have shampoo? They just really don't have anything. So, and maybe their family can't give it to them. So we are planning we're prepared to look at the home needs and stuff. And we've enlisted several nonprofits, Goodwill, one of them, that is contributing in-kind money to help them buy sheets, towels, clothing, pots and pans, whatever you may need when you get out to start over.
Thank you. And I just want everybody to know that there is a cost to the convict coming out of jail to stay out of jail. and that it is a burden on what's commonly a struggling family financially, and the financial burden that they put on their family, it a lot of times makes it easier for them to recommit a crime, to go back to jail, so that they're no longer burdening their family. And I've run across quite a few people on probation that have committed a crime for the sole purpose of going back to jail, so that they were no longer a financial burden on their family. So thank you.
Yes, they're comfortable in jail, and it's really comfortable to go back doing what got you in trouble in the first place, especially when you try to do right, and if you go back into an environment where you're the only one getting up, trying to go to work, do a job search, get doors slammed in your face, it's very, very easy to slip back into doing what you were doing to get you in trouble. And so we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to have everything lined out for them so that instantly they have something to do.
Thank you. That's all, President Dominic.
Thank you. Commissioner Adkins, I think you were on the board?
Yes, thank you all for what you do. I appreciate it. Sounds like a nice coordinated effort. You said you're asking for our support. Is that in the form of a resolution of support, or are you looking for grant matching funds?
No, we're not asking for money. We're just asking for a letter of support.
I'm behind you all the way.
To show the state that our community is behind us. It is a community effort, and we need the community.
Can we ensure, Dr. Wilson, that if I still that our staff prepare such a resolution? Thank you.
Thank you.
Can y'all get that prepared and get it on our next agenda? Anything else? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bass and
Thank
Lynn.
you.
Thank you
Welcome,
for
guys.
coming again today.
You're welcome.
All right.
Good to see you, Lynn.
Dr. Wilson?
Yes, sir. Just one other thing. We did put the monthly July financial stats with your guests.
Yes.
And we have to make sure we verbally say that for our auditors in the future.
Okay.
That they know I'm giving you that report, and that concludes my report for today, sir.
All right, thank you. And we're moving on to our next.
Next, we move to commission remarks, communication remarks, and responses, items on the agenda.
Commissioner Matthew Lynn.
Thank you. And it's opportune that the City Council has two representatives here today, so thank y'all both for showing up. The parish gets about 80% of its funding from property tax. And I've noticed a lot of houses that have depreciated in value, which means that the parish is going to be getting less money. And so we are in it together. And so from the Parish Commission helping buy police cars for the city of Shreveport, to even, possibly participating in the disparity study with the city of Shreveport. And there's another issue that hit really close to my home yesterday. The parish, several commissioners had brought up the shots fired technology and wanting to contribute and participate with the city of Shreveport with shots fired. And I really would hope that the City Council would help push that forward so that we can collaborate with the mayor's office with the shots fired technology. The reason why this is so close to home is that yesterday a friend of mine was taken by an ambulance to University Health with a self-inflicted gunshot wound, rifle wound to his head, to his cranium. He was off work Saturday, and Friday when he got off work, he attempted to take his own life. And he was not discovered until he didn't show up for work Sunday. And so they did a welfare check, went to his house, and found him. He was alive, in his bed, was not able to move, still alive. However, the shot spotter technology would have picked up a suicide attempt. And it seems like this is something that keeps happening more often in our community. And so when people say, well, there's not enough crime, or it's not going to help us with crime, well, hopefully it would help us in keeping a person from staying in their bed for 2 days shot at their home, and that we could care for the mental health of our citizens of Shreveport a little bit quicker. So that's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Chavez?
Thank you, President. I was just going to acknowledge my city councilman from the best neighborhood in Shreveport, Southern Hills. And Willie, thank you for coming as well. Appreciate you guys for all you do. That's all, President.
Okay, thank you. Okay, and we're moving on to our, let's see, wait, someone else. Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, Dr. Wilson. Well, never mind. I think we could tell you at the end. I'll come back up.
Okay, Todd, moving on to our next item.
President's report.
Have none at this time.
Next, we move to old business. Authorized introduction of ordinance number 5788-2018, declaring certain adjudicated properties to be surplus and authorize the parish administrator or designee to sell the parish's tax interest in certain surplus adjudicated properties. This was delayed from August the 6th.
So move.
Have a motion by Commissioner Stephen Jackson for introduction. Have a second by Gerald Bowman. Commissioner Gerald Bowman, please vote to move this to Thursday. That passes 11-0. Going on to our next item.
Next, we move to new business, zoning case P-1818, in regards to ordinance number 5790, amending the zoning of property located on the south side of Jefferson Page Road, approximately 650 feet east of Judy Lane, Caddo Parish, Louisiana, from RE Residential Estate District to R17 Single Family Residential District.
I vote to move to Thursday.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Lewis Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Mike Middleton. Please vote. That passes 11-0. Moving to our next item.
Authorized introduction of ordinance number 5791 of 2018, amending the budget of estimate revenues and expenditures for the Economic Development Fund for the year 2018 to provide an appropriation of $150,000 to conduct a disparity study.
Move to Thursday.
Moved by Commissioner Jackson,
Second.
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Lynn. Commissioner Jackson, you wish to speak on your motion?
No.
Commissioner John Atkins?
Thank you, Mr. President. I think many of us can agree that an economic disparity exists between African American citizens and white citizens. The reasons for these economic disparities are varied and complex and beyond the scope of this presentation. But many of us would like to see a greater equality between the supplier base of African Americans and the supplier base of the non-African American citizens. So again, let me repeat, many of us would like to see more equal utilization of white-owned contractors versus African-American-owned contractors versus women-owned contractors. We'd like to see more equality in that area. However, currently, there are only a limited number of skilled and qualified minority suppliers in our community. I'm not saying that we don't have any. I'm saying there's a limited number. And this gap was recognized several years ago by many aspects of our business community. They've worked together, the Chamber of Commerce, the African American Chamber of Commerce, the Committee of 100, and other civic organizations have pooled their resources and formed the Minority Supplier Institute to train, develop, and advocate minority suppliers. I think this is a wonderful effort. Again, we're trying to train, develop, and advocate for minority suppliers. I might also add that currently the parish has a goal of seeing 25% of our parish spend be spent with emerging businesses at the parish. And Valerie Jameson, the parish's purchasing director, currently oversees that initiative. Valerie is an African-American woman. She certainly has an eye towards trying to drive additional business to the minority sector. And I believe when that opportunity presents itself, or in those occasions when that opportunity presents itself, she attempts to award those qualified minority contractors that work. And if our purchasing director falters in that area, I believe that our administrator, our parish administrator, Dr. Woody Wilson, would also work with that purchasing director to ensure that those dollars are spent appropriately with emerging businesses throughout our parish. So I believe a disparity study is one, poor use of money and leads to government mandated requirements to spend money with minority suppliers when such suppliers do not currently exist in our community and do not currently exist in a large number in our community. and to have the government push money into a sector that is not yet fully developed will be wasteful, ineffective, and most importantly, unsafe. The Economic Development Committee discussed this issue in detail about 2 weeks ago, and we elected not to forward it to the body. I understand that every commissioner has a right to bring ideas on their own to the body, but I just wanted to point out that the Economic Development Committee did not pass it forward, and for this reason, I suggest that we not forward it to Thursday's agenda. Thank you, Mr. President.
Commissioner Jackson?
Yes, I'd like to address some of the comments that were made. It was stated that there's a skills gap that is not fully developed in the African American contracting community. That's a study that was done well over a decade ago. We're in 2018, and we need a study to look at present day skills, present day, what do we have here and now? And for us to sit and assume that there's a skills gap without actually doing the study or without actually going forward with looking at what is actually out there, I think is premature on our end or on our part. What the study simply asks us to do is to work with the city of Shreveport and work with the school board or the port or whomever would like to participate in the disparity study and see what is it, where the disparity exists and how we can actually close those gaps. The Minority Supplier Institute was mentioned in reference a couple of times in the statement, but the Minority Supplier Institute Executive Director, Taylor Jameson, was here at the Economic Development Committee saying that we needed to do this because without the actual factual predicate to go forward with it, we're just kind of spinning our wheels. And he sort of advocated for it as well as an apprenticeship program. So I think for us to just say that it's a waste of money without going forward with the actual study, we don't know, and we can't do the study ourselves. The courts have said, if I'm correct, I'm depending on legal for this one, can we do the study in-house, Attorney Frazier? Or does it have to be a third-party factual predicate study?
I don't see that there's any reason why it can't be done in-house if you have the personnel that can access the information.
Correct. So,
but the information, accessing the information is the piece.
but you have to have the actual factual predicate to be done in order to have the goal. Because right now all we have is a goal.
Right.
It is not a requirement. It is not a mandate. Or and what we're not trying to do is try to set a quota. But what we would like to do is to make sure that if we have the capability out there to do this work, that not just, this is not about African American versus white contractors. This is about women, and so this is about all types of minorities. So I don't want us to minimize this to a black versus white type situation, as opposed to just looking at the entire community out there, disadvantaged businesses that exist, and bring everybody into the full economic picture of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. So I would ask us to move this forward, and it's a good thing for us to do. Baton Rouge has started their process of doing a disparity study, and New Orleans has recently started their process of doing their disparity study. And New Orleans instituted theirs under Mitch Landrieu, who, if we're gonna talk about black and white, just happened to be white. So I think it's incumbent upon us as the third largest metropolitan city and parish in the state of Louisiana to at least do the study. If there's nothing for us to hide, if there's nothing for us to be embarrassed about, we should do the study. When Scott Martinez with NLEP brought the Site Selectors Guild here last year, one of the things that the site selectors cited was there has to be a closing of the wealth gap here in Shreveport. And he didn't say that you have to force it, or he didn't say throw money at the problem, but we at least need to go forward with the factual predicate study. And that didn't come from me. That came from folks who came in from the outside looking in at Shreveport and Caddo Parish. So I think this is a worthwhile cause for us to at least explore and to do it in partnership with the city of Shreveport. I think the city of Shreveport voted to set their money aside, and Caddo Parish should join in that effort. We've done several joint studies before. the 2030 Caddo Master Plan, and several other studies we've done before. And I think it's worth us looking at it again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. I'm on the board, so I'll just briefly say some of the same thing Commissioner Atkins said, and I think you touched on it right there at the end. The Economic Development Committee heard everything about this, and they voted not to move forward. So I agree with Commissioner Atkins for the most of the things that you said, and I'll be voting no on this item. Commissioner Bowman?
Okay, yes, sir, Mr. President. Thank you. I just want to say I do definitely agree that there does need to be a study done for disparity, and not for just African Americans, just women, Latinos, Asians, anybody, more different demographics. As I say that, I don't know when. The second reason would be, I don't know when the last time there was one, and I know that study brings data and data brings facts, and we will have to have facts in order to move forward and to be able to further find out what's going on, and how we can close the gap. I remember actually my first week here, there was a meeting, and you were present as well, Dr. Wilson, and some other people, and we were trying to figure out why was there a gap and what can we do. And one of the things, I think I even asked a question, and the response not only from you, but even the persons there, it aligns with what Commissioner Atkins is saying, and that is we do have minority contractors and groups, but then for some of the work that is being requested, even with the parish, they're not qualified. Or they don't have, when I say qualified, meaning if there's some type of large landscaping job or something like that, and the group only has a push mower and a rake, it's going to require something more than that. So just because you're a minority, Caucasian, or anywhere else, you don't deserve to get it. I mean, that's just how that works. But I think everyone, I know people can't all be equal, but we can all be fair about it. And so I do applaud Commissioner Atkins, not only with the Economic Development Committee, what you're doing, but I know as a businessman and someone I've also asked, and we've talked to other people personally, that you're looking at going into training. It's one thing to have problems, but I appreciate the fact that you bring solutions to it as well and a remedy to it, because we do know there's a gap. So A, we do need a study. Two, we need to do things like training so we can attract more. On the flip end, $150,000 is excessive, and I too want to know, can we, if we do a study, can we have one, not so much in-house, but just, can one be done at a more economical rate? Because with that amount, I don't know if I can support it. And if we have the money, I know regardless, maybe we need to reach out to some groups or someone else who may even, I'm sure, would like to chip in to see where we are factually. I mean, it's something that we should know, not only for the parish, but the city should. And I know that they do. We even have some council persons here as well. And I'm sure they could speak towards that as well. But that's my main thing. We do need a study. I don't think that price is something that we can do. But I would like to see what we can do to assist in making it happen. And again, I just want to thank you, Commissioner Atkins, for what you are doing to try and provide a remedy, and not just saying, yeah, we don't have enough minority contractors, but you realize that we do need training and we do need to do other ways and try to attract them. So, I mean, it's not a black, it's definitely a minority issue, but it's also an economic issue aligned with, if the minority contractors can't get it, then you've already lessened what about any local businesses getting it? Because at some point, if the locals aren't getting it, then we're outsourcing. So it's more of a larger issue. What's indirectly, basically, in one sector is still directly affecting the whole sector of our economic development. So that's all I wanted to say, and I appreciate that opportunity, Mr. President.
Commissioner Atkins, you already spoken, so we'll go to Commissioner Chavez and then Vice President Cawthorn, and then back to you, Commissioner Atkins.
Thank you, President. I just want to give my opinion on this. I'll be voting no to move this to Thursday. One reason is because it came out of economic development, so it was vetted already, and the committee that the president put in charge of thinking that who was best around this horseshoe to look at economic development from the parish standpoint, he filled those chairs, and I feel that I trust them, and the people that voted to leave it in committee and not bring it to the full body, that was their decision, so I'm going to back them on that. But likewise, I don't feel that we need to spend the money to tell us that there is a disparity, because there obviously is one. And coming from a Latino aspect, I'm personally an entrepreneur, and I've been in business here in Caddo Parish for a little over a decade. I personally went to the city to file to be able to sell to the city. I saw no roadblocks. It wasn't hard. So to say that there's a disparity, I just think as an entrepreneur, we need to entice the current and incumbent business owners to get up and do more and go out and just see the other opportunity and seize them. Because I think there's a lot of people that think if you automatically get a government contract that you're going to make it, that all of a sudden that will turn your business fruitful. Well, it says in the good book, if you're faithful with a little bit, he will grant you a lot. And after being in business for 10 years, I had never even considered going out into doing business with the city or the parish. Matter of fact, the whole reason I even got involved with it, because somebody ran a news story that said I had a government contract, which it turns out I didn't. So I did the right thing, and I went to the state, and I got an ethics opinion that said that I could. After I had that, I went to the city, and I filled out all the paperwork. They were extremely friendly, and it was very easy. Now I'm a month past that process, and like you guys asked, how much would a study like this cost? I'll tell you guys my experience in about another month when I go there and I start to try ask for those contracts, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think that it's enough people going out there and asking. I even talked to Dr. Wilson. I said, what is the goal at the parish trying to fill? And he said 25%. And I asked him, do at least 25% of the makeup come and apply for those jobs? And he said, no, it's not that they're not the skilled, or I don't want to misquote what somebody had said prior, but they just may not be equipped. For instance, I would love to get a contract and lay I-49 and make $1 billion, but I just don't have that kind of equipment at my office. What I have is computers, and what I know how to do is what I've been doing for the last 14 years, so that's what I'm going to attempt to do. So we just may not have that many qualified businesses that handle the contracts that we have here at the parish. Now, I do know that coming from the city, I can look at the city's perspective. They do contract out a lot, where the parish doesn't. We do a lot of our own work in-house, so there really isn't that much contracts to be had coming from the parish perspective. So I wonder, why are we trying to come in at the same level of the city? And could there be a way where we could collaborate to say, possibly we could do this in-house on a different scale with different revenue, as opposed to paying $300,000 for a disparity study of which we already know exists. So for all those reasons, I just don't feel comfortable spending the taxpayer money to say that, hey, we're going to look at a study to tell us what we already know. I'd like to see, can we use the MSI and the Chamber of Commerce, which is the reason that they're there, and the African American Chamber of Commerce, which is the reason why we help fund them grants, to try to build the local establishment that we have here and get them into these positions. And not just African American, if there's, like I said, Latinos and Asians here too. That's all. Thank you, President.
Vice President Cawthorn.
All right. Thank you, President. I want to refer back to some comments that were made in the committee itself. Whereas I may agree with Commissioner Atkins and Commissioner Chavez as it relates to the dollar amount that needs to be spent for a disparity study to already prove what already exists, I understand where you're coming from as it relates to that. But when I posed the question to our legal counsel, well, let me back up just a bit. And so it's feasible for the city and the parish to come together and say collectively, we know there's a disparity, let's collectively do a neutral race remedy to solve this problem. But from the response of counsel, and if you don't mind, Donna, you chime in and explain to me what's the challenge in doing such.
Commissioner,
there is no real challenge for a race-neutral program.
Mhm.
But if you want to have a race or gender-specific program, then you have to have the disparity study showing that the disparity exists, and you have to tailor your program to remedy the disparities that are shown by the study.
Right, so doing it without a disparity study, if we just decided amongst ourselves, well, we know that's a disparity, we get together, we put a plan together, that's the potential for someone to challenge us in court.
Correct.
Okay. Then the next thing I want to know, that this spell, like I often use around this horseshoe, the empirical data, to sit here and suggest that we don't know if there's enough people that can do the work, or maybe they can't do the work. I don't like to deal in gray areas. Let's get the empirical data so we can speak more pointedly to where the disparity exists at. Secondly, when we began to talk about disparity studies and procurement opportunities for the parish and the city, we're not only talking about construction, what a lot of people mean. There are several procurement opportunities, top to bottom, that a small disadvantaged business can participate in, whether it's engineering, whether it's accounting, whether it's representing the city, the parish as an attorney, selling toilet paper. There's a lot of procurement opportunity from top to bottom. So we don't want to be cornered in just contracting. That's one of the things that's available. So I do understand the challenge with spending the money. I think the disparity does exist, and we probably need to move forward in seeing if we can support this economically.
Good.
Thank you, President.
Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. We know we do have a disparity, and the study will basically let us know where that gap exists, and that's the purpose for doing the study. One of the problems that we do know is that bonding capacity is not there for a lot of small and emerging businesses, and so what happens is when you do the study, it will then allow subcontractors to be awarded.
I'm sorry.
Bless you. To be awarded to those individuals, so then they can get the bonding capacity. It will grow over time to be able to get a bonding capacity, to be able to do the larger jobs. And we do have resources here in town that will be able to handle that. We do have the skilled works that's here in town to be able to do that. If you go down Jewella, you'll see a $5 million edifice on Jewella in Moortown. It was built by minorities, 100%. So we do have the capacity to do it in this town. But when you also look at this, you also look at economic development, because if we have this study done and people know that they have a chance to get some work done in Shreveport and Caddo Parish, they'll move back. We had an engineering company move from Baton Rouge to Shreveport in hopes of getting work here, because one of the criteria that they told them, well, you need to have an office in Shreveport. Well, those guys stayed here, worked, came to all kind of meetings, proposed a lot of stuff, and got nothing. So if you put something out there that they know they can hopefully get, then you bring their businesses back. You bring those businesses back. You bring now opportunities for other small emerging businesses to come along to try to enhance themselves. When they enhance themselves, we all rise up to the top. I mean, what I'm hearing today is basically you want to keep a separation. The rich stay rich, the poor stay poor. And that's not how it should be. But, I mean, that's how I'm interpreting what you're saying, because you're saying there's a gap in skilled workforce, and we really don't know that, because basically a lot of people who would work in Shreveport have moved away. Give them opportunity to come back home. And so there's a lot of people who went off to school, got engineering degrees, architect degrees. I mean, they got a lot of stuff, but they staying away from Shreveport because they have no jobs for them to work. And this will only allow them to come back home to bid and to possibly stay here and enhance their business. That's all this study is about, is making sure that we can do what we need to do. And without the study, we can't tell the general contractor what percentage of minority contract he needs to have involvement in. You say a number, you say a goal, but then that could be challenged. But with the study, the challenge goes away. And also, in the Economic Development Committee, we did not vote on it. It was brought up, it was discussed, but there was no vote.
Died for lack of a second.
Yeah, no
No vote.
Thank you.
Commissioner Middleton?
Call for the question.
Uh-huh.
We got too much to talk about.
Well, it's got to come eventually, so.
Oh, but we got to get some type of solution.
Okay, hang
Out
on.
of order.
Guys,
Right.
hey, guys, listen, let me run the meeting, please. Okay, so Commissioner Middleton makes a motion. There is no second, so it dies for lack of second. And we'll move back on to our item. Commissioner Lewis Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a issue that has come before us before, and we're faced with the same concerns regarding it. I've did some research as relates to it, and there are obvious challenges to a disparity study, and I think we've identified what they are. But I think what concerns me is, and a lot of great points have come out, especially Commissioner Cawthorn, when you identified the fact that we're not talking contract work only. And two things about the discussion that concerns me is that normally when this discussion comes before us, number one, that is the only time that we discuss the merits or plan to address the disparity that exists between us. We have good ideas during meetings like this. We talk about it during meetings like this, and we don't visit again. You don't visit that subject again until it comes before you with the need to be addressed. So that concerns me, in that if we are serious about addressing disparity, I think that discussion would and should not only take place when we're faced with a disparity vote. So either way this vote goes today, I would like to challenge the commission and the parish to become more serious about it, so it can stay before us and it can become an issue that we really want to try and address. I think that what I've heard, or what we continue to hear, are those areas as relates to opportunities of which minority contractors cannot do. Be it capacity, be it prepared, and not address those areas in which we can do. And even those areas in which you can do, we are still failing to get the percentage. So no matter which area you look at it as relates to minority involvement, we have not seen a commitment to reach the levels that are before us. So I think that's important. My commissioner, who I have great respect for, who has a great business, I know because I do business with you, mentioned his going forward and doing the things that he needs to in the contract, and it being quite easy. Well, obviously, in order to get a percentage of minority involvement in local economic development is not easy. It's not easy for those who are trying, those who have continued to try. So I don't know about that, but obviously there are some challenges in that respect. I think that as it relates to what we're faced with here, when we look at there are different areas in which we can address it other than just contract labor, heavy equipment, that type of thing. I think that's important. The price that is before us may cause us some concerns, but that's what it is. That's not negotiable right now. That's what's required, so that's what we'll have to vote on. And the good book also says that which we have done unto the least of us, or to the least of them, we done it unto Christ himself. That's right. So the question becomes, minority speaking, disparity speaking, what have we done to the least of them? And it appears that for whatever reason, we continue to have challenges in getting there. And the question is, can a disparity study help us move in that direction? And I think that's the purpose of it. Not that it's an end all, not as an answer to everything, but for us to continue to identify that there is a disparity and let that be the only solution or the only position that we take is questionable. So I think that if we identify that there is one and we have an opportunity or an instrument to try and move toward addressing it, it would be something to consider. And I think that's what we're faced with today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Lewis Johnson. Commissioner Atkins, second time around.
Thank you. I think you all recall that I started this discussion by recognizing that there's a disparity and recognizing a desire to work on that disparity. It's never my intention to shut any group out, be it black, white, woman,
Latino, Asian.
That's not the goal here. And it seems that anyone who has a market-based bias can easily be painted into the corner of being not open to all others. I'm open to all others, as long as they have the skills and capabilities to do the work. And I'm even willing to say a tie or a close tie goes to the to the, I'm going to call it emerging business.
Small disadvantaged business.
The small disadvantaged business.
that. That's good.
So I just want to be clear that I have no agenda other than what I think is best for our community with taking my market-based perspective into the situation. I'm concerned. Commissioner Jackson rightly pointed out that the study I referenced earlier is probably a decade old. That's correct, but in my mind, there's a study done every day in the marketplace. Every day we're sending out RFPs and asking for proposals, and every day we're testing the market. And I'd much rather rely on that data, especially when I feel in my heart that we have a very fair procurement director who's looking to give opportunity to all emerging businesses out there. So I think that we're doing a study every day, and to pay a group $150,000 from us and $150,000 or so from the city and $150,000 or so from the school board, all from the same citizen, the same taxpayers. We're not talking about just 150, we're talking about 450 here. To pay someone who may have an agenda, to bring in a group from out of town who may have an agenda in doing the assessment gives me concern, because I feel that the market's being assessed, or the market's being assessed every day by the competitive marketplace out there. So I would just encourage us to rely on our solid, well-educated, well-intended team to continue to build our supplier base from the ground up and back other local opportunities to build the supplier base. But let's not go down the path of disparity studies and government quotas. I don't think that government quotas is the best path for our community. Thank you.
Commissioner Bowman?
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. I just want, you pretty much answered what I wanted, except for I just want clarity on how much was the total cost of this study, and what commitment do we have? I know the city persons are here and council persons, and I believe they have stepped forward. I just want to know where we are with other entities.
I think the city's committed $150,000. Is that right, Commissioner Akins?
I believe so, Commissioner Jackson. Is that correct?
I don't know if the school board ever made a commitment or not. It would be a commitment between us, the school board, and the parish, the school board, if I'm correct, and the city.
Okay. All right. Another thing, am I out of order, but can we have someone from the council actually tell us why they're...
I don't think that you'd have to make a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to allow the council.
I second.
Can't make a motion. Well, I'll let somebody else do it.
I second.
I'll allow him to make the motion.
He's so
Commissioner
nice.
Gerald Bowman's made a motion. Commissioner Lewis Johnson has made a second to suspend rules.
That's
To allow,
favor.
I'm gonna say Commissioner,
Presidential privilege.
Councilman Bradford to speak, please. Let's please vote on this.
Amazing how it comes full circle.
Limitation on time or?
Yeah, there'll be a 3-minute limit. City Councilman Bradford, if you can come up, you have 3 minutes. I think that Mr. Bowman had a couple of questions for you. I'll allow that to happen. I think the question is, how much is the total cost? I think we know it's $450, and can you just let us know if the city has actually voted that they will spend $150 and where we are on the school board?
Okay, the city has actually allocated, and it's in the bank, $150,000 toward this study. I requested at our last intergovernmental meeting that the parish and the school board will participate. Now, we engaged a consultant who, and I want you to understand that, and the conversation is well, but it's sort of misguided in the sense of what the objective is. We're talking about a race-neutral program that will ensure that derbies will participate through a governmental predicate by the study that can not be challenged. The consultant told us that it would be between $300,000 and $400,000 to conduct this study, which would take about 2 years, because it's a real detailed study. It will show past discrimination for minority firms and companies as well as current. So what it would do in the interim, it will set a precedence to where there has been these type of discriminations, and to remedy that, we needed proof. It's a governmental Supreme Court case that Clausen versus the state of Virginia entered into years ago that said that to go forward and to put remedies in place, we must have the study done to where it will go unchallenged by any entity that may want to challenge it, because now we're looking at putting in place some remedies to the past and current discrimination for these WBE firms. The school board have not made a commitment, but the $300,000, if the parish so choose to participate in funding this study, the $300,000 will trigger, I think, whichever entity, and I said again, the administrator, the parish administrator, and the mayor conjointly could reach out and do RFP to get the actual number that it would cost. We would get bids on what firms could do it. There are several firms that have shown interest through the city, even though we have not moved forward because we did not want to do a RFP, and we was not prepared to accept a bid and move forward without having the total funding. $300,000 is the low end. That somebody, one firm has said we can do it, but then the consultants say if we want to really look at it in a totality, then we may need to get several, and the high end would be around $400,000. Again, there's other opportunities, but I think if the parish, it would be well spent. I want you to understand, it's nothing political about this. This is something that we think would uplift the citizens of Shreveport and Caddo Parish. So your question is, what would it cost, and did the school board ask to, have the school board made a commitment? They have not. We have another governmental meeting coming up next month, and I think we will get the final response from the school board. But I think where we are now in this body, I just would urge you at the greatest of consideration, because it's real, okay? And commissioners, I respect you wholeheartedly, but I want you to understand that we cannot achieve what we are trying to achieve if we did not have a disparity study to ensure that inclusion at its highest level would be accepted. Because again, I've heard a lot of conversation, and I think we're missing the point that we can ask anybody kindly, will you help us? Will you help minorities? Will you do this? Will you do that? But at the same time, if they overstep a certain line, then challenges could be afforded, and this will eliminate that, because the government, the courts are saying you have a documentation by the study that will say it is real. You can't challenge it. We must go forward and grow minority and women-owned farms. And it's going to be needed, Again, we're in a very diverse atmosphere. Parish and city governments are growing into a diverse group, and we, I think, would do ourselves well by, at this stage, this body, the city council body, to accept the responsibility to move this city in a way that could be productive and beneficial for everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And,
Mr. Bowman, you still on the floor. You have anything else?
No, I just wanted to say, I just hope that in addition to this study that, you even said yourself it's going to take 2 years. We need to be doing something in addition to this study, I feel, like what Commissioner Atkins says, to meet and try and see how we can bring people or train or just, and I never said no one was qualified. I just think a lot of minorities have a lack of resource, access to the resource, having a seat at the table to some things, but at the same time, it's a multi-level thing beyond just a study. So I'll be in support of moving it forward, but I'm not a guarantee of supporting it at that price, though, on Thursday.
Commissioner Jackson, you were on the board first.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, and I appreciate Councilman Bradford, and I believe Councilman Fleury voted in favor of this at the city as well, so I thank him as well. I want to, Dr. Wilson or Dr. Valerie, don't we do the how to do business with Caddo? Is that us or is that the school board? Or do we do it as a partnership? Can we talk about what exactly, because I want us to sort of debunk that notion that we're not actively engaging, because this was not about, this study, putting this as proposing this was not about saying this is what we weren't doing, but this is to try to get us past, as Councilman Bradford said, is to get us to the other side of it and to actually get that factual predicate study in place. So
yes, we do have how to do business with the parish. We do it on an annual basis, but we also go out into the community with other agencies and organizations to speak about our program.
And for a moment. And so again, this is not about saying that this is not what we're doing or we're failing in some area. And I hope that it doesn't come off that way to say that we're failing. We may be doing a great job. The study may come back and say at the parish of Caddo, you're doing great. It may come back at the city of Shreveport and say, you're not doing so great. It may come back at the school board and say, here's where you need work at, but we have to have the study first. I disagree that whomever would be awarded the contract would have a preconceived notion or a preconceived narrative of what the disparity is. A lot of people say we know that this disparity exists. We don't know that the disparity exists without the study. So we have to do the study first. But Valerie, I would just ask, even with the disparity study in place, and even if we do the disparity study, don't we have to come back and set an actual ordinance?
Yes.
After the disparity, okay.
To define what the actual program would be and what it would look like, exactly.
Okay, and so even after that, so we do the disparity study, then we have to come back and put the remedy in place, which is the ordinance.
Right, and our guidelines.
In the guidelines. Then after that, you're still bound by state law to go with the lowest qualified bidder.
Right.
And the operative word there, I believe, is qualified.
The lowest responsible.
Responsible. Okay.
And responsive bidder.
Okay. Responsive bidder, meaning when you say responsive bidder, what?
That during the bid process, that they are a licensed contractor, whatever the requirements are, whatever the criteria is, all the documents are complete, that they are bonded for that particular job.
So the fact that the state law says that it has to be the lowest responsible bidder or responsive bidder means that we wouldn't just be forcing somebody to go cut 3132 with what is that term, whatever tractor is out there. They'd actually need to show that they have staff, they have the equipment, they have the capacity to go out there and do it, as opposed to going out there with a rake and a push mower.
Not all jobs require that we have that criteria, only if you do an RFP, but if you're just doing a bid, it's only based on the lowest bidder.
Okay.
So, but we do have processes in place with our internal directors that, check the job to make sure that they do have the proper equipment, and then we do go out and inspect those jobs.
Right, and there's an inspection process that goes on.
Correct.
And before they can actually invoice a bill.
Correct.
It has to be approved. So there are mechanisms that are already built into the current process.
Yes, it is.
And so I just don't want us to think that we would be throwing money at anything, or we would be forcing the hand of Dr. Wilson or Valerie to choose somebody who's not actually qualified.
Correct.
And I don't think that they would do that. That's where I would go. And I would encourage us to at least let's look at doing the study so that we can talk about putting the ordinance in place if there is a disparity that exists. The disparity may come back and say that, your goal says 25, but it may come back and say that your capacity is only at 10%.
Correct.
And so now we have to look at that. And so I tell people that you have to be careful when you do a disparity study, because the way the Supreme Court case reads is you have to actually go with the capacity and not necessarily the disparity. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so we could be shooting ourselves in the foot. But until we do the study, we will never know. And that's what this is about. I agree with what I've heard up here, that this is not, to me, not about black or white. It shouldn't be about black or white or Hispanic, Latino, women, men. This should be about, let's get the factual information out there. And that's what I think the UDC as well as the master plan cost us anywhere between $2 million to $3 million. Is that correct, Stephen, Gene?
About 1.5 million.
1.5 million.
We
So
still can't agree on that.
we spent 1.5 million on a master plan. This is a fraction of the cost, and I think it's to move our city and our parish forward in Northwest Louisiana. This is a fraction of the cost here. So thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Okay, I make a motion to call for the question.
Second.
Have a motion by the chair, second by Commissioner Bowman, voting for calling of the question at this time to end the debate. Please vote. And that passes 11-1. Okay, now we'll go back to the original.
10-1.
Sir?
10-1.
Oh, I'm sorry. Passes 10-1. We'll go back to the original motion that was made by Commissioner Jackson to amend the budget for the revenue expenses for the amount of $150,000 for the disparity study. The vote will be to move this to Thursday.
That passed.
And that passes 6-5. It'll be moved to Thursday, okay?
Next, we move to authorize introduction of ordinance number 5792, 2018, amending the budget estimate revenues and expenditures for the Reserve Trust Fund for the year 2018 to provide additional appropriation of $250,000 from the Reserve Trust Fund to assist tornado victims.
Move to advance.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson, seconded by Vice President Cawthorn. Please, you're not on board, right? Please vote.
It's the same one.
And that passes 11-0.
Authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5793 of 2018 to authorize the parish administrator designate to sell Hawkins Lear Park.
Move to advance.
Second.
Motion made by the Commissioner Lyndon Johnson, seconded by the chair, if that's okay. This is number 5793, move to Thursday. Please vote. It's actually London, but we're talking about teaming on. And that passes 11-0. Move to the next item.
Authorize the introduction of ordinance number 5794 to rescind the subdivision of Northern Cross Estates Unit 2 in the parish of Caddo.
So moved.
Second.
A motion by the chair, seconded by Commissioner Stephen Jackson. Please vote. Lyndon, you got your question?
Yeah, I just want to make a correction that on the map, 5794, need to say Northern Cross instead of North Cross. Because there is a North Cross.
You hear that, Jimmy? Okay.
It needs to say what?
Northern Cross instead of North Cross.
On the map.
On the map.
On the
Yeah.
map, right.
Please vote.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, didn't come up. Vote yes, but it didn't come up.
One more time, yes. There you go. That should show.
And moving to that passes 11-0. Moving to the next item.
Authorize resolution number 57 to authorize the Caddo Parish Administrator to approve the assignment of state agency leases.
So moved. To
Moved by
Thursday.
Commissioner John Atkins,
Second by Commissioner Smith.
seconded by Jim Smith.
Yes.
Okay. Please vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, I should have.
That passes 11-0. Next item.
Authorize resolution number 58, amending the rules and bylaws of the Caddo Parish Commission regarding meeting and work session times.
Motion to pull this. If I can get a second, I'll tell you why.
Second.
This particular item, everybody that's up on the commission right now, everybody signed on to be here from 3:30 on, and I recognize that it would be unfair to ask us to change our time mid-year. However, I'd like to meet with legal and with several other commissioners in reference to the next commission body, which will be elected next year, that their times would be changed. In this election season for city council and mayor, I find so many people that have said that they would like to run for office and they would like to be more involved in government, but their 9 to 5 or 8 to 4 or 8 to 5 type job does not allow them to be involved in government, and that if we could move our times to a later moment in the day, they could skip their lunch and come to the commission meetings.
Skip their lunch? Skip their lunch and come at 5?
No, they could skip their lunch and leave their work at 4
Oh, I
so
got
that
you.
they could make a commission meeting.
Okay.
Thank you for that clarification.
Okay. What about the committee meeting?
But
Well,
2
let's
o'clock
discuss-
meeting.
And
Yeah.
right,
11
and then that would be something that they would have to do also. So yes, thank you.
All right, so who's on, Commissioner Jackson, you on board?
Oh, I guess Commissioner Lynn just kind of touched on it. I know I had brought this forward. I think I brought it forward last year, and I would ask maybe if we have some discussion in committee. I do agree that we agreed to a certain time, but I would like to see us put it out for a citizens referendum to see if they're okay with us moving.
You mean a
it.
vote?
Right, a vote.
We can't legally do that, can we?
Not as home rule charter?
Say it again.
That's correct.
I'm correct?
We can't, you can't put that on a ballot for a referendum.
Why couldn't you?
Under the charter, you all are elected as their representatives, so you all have their vote. The citizens don't have their vote.
Right, but we can't, I'm confused. Explain to me why we couldn't put that out for a referendum.
Because the charter provides that as the elected officials, you all have that vote. The only vote that the citizens would have is if you put something to amend the charter back on.
Or a tax issue?
Or a tax issue, that's correct, under state law.
Okay, because I was under the assumption that anything can go to a referendum.
No.
Okay, all right. Well, let's get together. I like I said, I just want to put ideas out there, and I'm getting comments from the crowd. But I think that, you know, if we could have a community-based conversation where citizens, we work for the citizens of Caddo Parish. I'm all for letting it take effect in the next term as opposed to the current term. But it's something that I think gives citizens more access to our meetings. That way that they don't have to depend on some biased view to decipher what takes place down here. We did a great job with opening it up to Facebook Live, and a lot of people like the fact that we do that. I think we've gotten great feedback from that. But again, I think it's worth us having a conversation about it. It's not something that I'm weighted to, but I think it's something that's at least worth the conversation and a little bit more research on whether it can be a referendum issue or not, or if we can work toward how can we work toward getting some more feedback on it. So thank you, Mr. President.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind discussing it, but we've already sitting on the committee as far as this current term goes, of course.
Right.
I'll be term limited out, won't have to worry about it, but Donna and I have had this discussion, not on this issue, but just other issues, that legally it can't go for a referendum. Otherwise, we would have put the monument issue, we would put everything on the referendum to the vote. There's changing the charter, renewing the taxes, property taxes. Those issues are the things that have to go and are required by law to go on the ballot. We as elected officials, and we are a public, vote on that. So on the other issues. So, the motion has been made by Commissioner Matthew Lynn. I think it was seconded by Commissioner Jackson to remove this item. Was that okay?
I'll give it to you.
Okay. Please vote.
To remove it?
To remove it.
Okay.
And that passes 11-0. Moving on to our next item.
Authorize special recognition to Pastor-elect Gregory L. Oliver, Mount Canaan Baptist Church.
So moved to Thursday.
Moved by Commissioner Jackson, second by Commissioner Bowman. Please vote. And that passes 10-0. Moving to our next item.
Authorize recognition of Mr. R.J. Johnson.
Request to strike that from the agenda.
I have a motion by Commissioner Chavez, second by Commissioner Middleton to remove this item from the agenda. You need to talk? Commissioner Jackson?
Yeah, I just wanted to make for the record that RJ had contacted me. He did contact me Friday and asked what was it about.
Yeah.
Well, he said he didn't want the certificate. He was just doing a job, but he appreciates it.
Right. And so
We all got an email on that
Okay.
today that basically said that too.
And
Yeah.
I think he just wanted to be stated publicly at the meeting that he was not asking for this. It
No.
was just a gesture. And we appreciate Commissioner Chavez for wanting to recognize the members of the committee.
All right, please vote to remove this item from the agenda. And that passes 10-0.
Next, we move to communications committee reports.
Commissioner Jackson?
All right. Stephen, if you could, and I don't know if you can hear me there, you don't have to come up. That structure that's going up at right here where we had to move the trailer on Common Street, there's a structure being erected by those billboards there. I know one of them is a Coca-Cola billboard, but if you could possibly pull the permit from it, I know Alan Clark worked with it for quite some time last year, and we finally got that trailer and the van moved. Now it looks as if there's a structure being built. I don't know if they put a permit in or what for it, and I have no idea what they could possibly be trying to build in that area, but it would be right off our interstate in plain sight of anybody passing through Shreveport, and heaven forbid if it's something off the wall. So if we could look into that, and I don't know if y'all already following up with it, it may be something that I would assume Jeff would want to know about, Jeff Everson would want to be in on, but if we could do that, I appreciate it. All right.
And for the record, you're not talking to yourself, you're talking to Mr. Stephen Jean.
Correct, Stephen Jean, correct. Dr. Wilson. Dr. Wilson. Oh, I don't know what was funny.
Okay. You still got the floor?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Dr. Wilson, on our on the adjudicated property, we can get together, me, you, Jimmy, and Robert kind of get together on that, and also would like to get together to discuss, because I'm seeing some of the civic source things pop up but I don't know if that's ours or if that's the city of Shreveport in 3. And so I think those are supposed to just be city-owned properties, but I'm not totally sure. But if we could get together on that, I think today we put the Brentwood one on. Was that what that was? Okay. All right, then. That's it for me, Mr. Chairman.
And Commissioner Mike Middleton?
Already? Okay. Yeah, I have a statement I want to make. Last Wednesday on the 15th, I accepted the Juvenile Detention Center's invitation to attend a court session. Ted Cox, who just entered the room a few minutes ago, set me up in the Judge Matlock's courtroom. The day's proceedings were for the judge to determine if children were to continue in state protective custody, placed with concerned trusted family members, or to go to foster care. The judge's court staff, of course, included the Caddo Sheriff's Bailiff, the clerk of court, and a reporter. Assistant District Attorney Sarah Hood helped me to understand the roles of each person in the courtroom. I've been in many criminal trials in my life, a couple of civils, but I've never been in one in juvenile court. By the way, all these folks had been in court the night before until 7:30. All the cases were concerning to me, but one case seemed quite complicated. It involved a 16-year-old juvenile mother in the care of her infant child. Judge Matlock listened to and weighed the needs of the following, and each one of these had to have an attorney representing them. The juvenile mom, her infant child, who is I think less than a year old, her own mother, which would be the grandmother of the infant, her dad, and also the young mom's sibling sister. Wow. So you have like 6 or 7 attorneys in there, including Sarah. And the judge had a lot to listen to, put it that way. And each of these had to, also you had the temporary foster care giver that was in there, and the drug court representative. So the judge had to weigh all of the information he had coming in right there to give everyone a fair opportunity to get their sides out for them to make a decision. And by the way, the 30-something-year-old father of the infant child is in Bossier Max.
Okay,
Thank you.
That's a good.
We sometimes feel we must make difficult decisions from this horseshoe. I can't begin to imagine what decisions all judges must make on a continual basis, but how decisions by juvenile detention center judges alone can impact the lives and futures of so many people. And we see that every day in law enforcement, those of us that have been there. Several declarations made by Judge Matlock have resonated in my mind since last week. Your needs are important to me, Judge Total. We will not fail these children. We'll bust our knuckles for these kids. I ask all of you to take up on the JDC opportunity to go and visit. Also thank your own children and family for their accomplishments and continue to be a positive influence on everyone in your life. I will continue to advocate all parish departments, from our clerk to Caddo Parish Animal Services and Solid Waste, to do their jobs ethically with transparency and accountability. I'll push for the live release rate for animals to be as high as possible, as I feel this is important to myself as well as the tens of thousands of animal owners in the parish. However, for the needs of juvenile court, with the pending incoming 17-year-olds, I feel we must accelerate our acquisition of infrastructure and operational funding. Hence, let's revisit the need to re-educate or to educate citizens, even though we've tried before on a referendum, that we have a large part of the funding potential in the solid waste and oil and gas revenues. We need to start educating and revisiting that and maybe get it on the agenda again to use some of these large funds to build infrastructure and or to operate it. I think we need to look at this. We need to if we're going to do, I think the best avenue is to get with Bossier and see if we cannot get everything going and keep it on the forefront. Folks, this is some serious stuff going on over there at juvenile court. I've dealt with kids and their parents for 39 years in law enforcement, and this is something that's really real, and I think we're closing our eyes on it. It was a very enlightening thing for me to go to, and I just hope everyone else will take that opportunity to go and listen to them, because it's more than just truancy. It's more than just, staying out late and that kind of stuff. This is some serious stuff. I mean, Judge Matlock really impressed me. Sit up there and just taking in all this information. And I appreciate him. Ted, I appreciate you and your folks. Y'all work, you bust your knuckles, and I'm going to put it that way to be nice. And y'all do a great job over there, and I know you need all the resources. You'd like to have more if you can get it. But, man, we got to get this thing going. We got to just quit talking about it. We got to make some decisions and get this going. That's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Agree with everything you said pretty much until you got to talking about North Caddo Parish again. And I'm going to say this over and over and over again. I agree that we have a problem with juvenile. And if y'all want to talk about the city, they were just sitting here, y'all talking about collaborate with them. Let's collaborate with them. Tell them to come on to the table and start paying their fair share on the juvenile justice system, which 98% to 99% are from the city of Shreveport. But quit talking about taking taxpayer money from North Caddo Parish that has the solid waste and the public works that is paid for and voted by the people in North Caddo Parish and South Caddo Parish in the rural areas that's not voted on by the city of Shreveport and Vivian, and trying to use that money that we cannot legally use. We said it over and over again. If you want me to be passionate about this, I can be passionate about that.
Yikes.
Okay? Donna, we can't use the solid waste money inside the city of Shreveport, can we?
No.
May I have a point of clarification?
We cannot use the public work the money that's voted on outside the city of Shreveport and Vivian. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
May I make a point of clarification?
Sure.
I would expect it to be the ones who voted to tax themselves for the solid waste, which would be the ones outside of Shreveport and outside of Vivian. I appreciate your demeanor, wanting to take care of your folks, but I would never suggest anyone other than the ones who voted that now have excessive taxes on them because of the funds that have been built up. I understand that, Doug. I understand those are the ones that should be voting for that, and I think we're fixing to get off way far.
Well, they're not going to vote
and
on
what I'm saying, I'm just asking for us to educate the folks. That's the ones that would vote on it.
You need to go educate the people in Shreveport then, okay? I mean, that's my opinion. You asked for a point of clarification, but you said right there, solid waste and public works. And we've heard it over and over and over again. And I just don't agree with that. I mean, if y'all want to put it on the ballot and raise the taxes or take money elsewhere, but we cannot use the solid waste money that's voted on outside the city of Shreveport for juveniles.
Unless it's rededicated by those people that voted on it to put it out there.
Yeah, and we're not, I mean, I'm not gonna go there. Why would the people in the rural area educate them? They're gonna be stupid to vote on something like that. So the people who vote on something and pay for something outside the parish are gonna take their money and use it for the juvenile, that 98% of the city people that go to juveniles in Shreveport. My gosh, don't you think I'll be jumping up and down saying, don't vote on this, don't vote on this? And I'm sure the other ones will be too.
Thank you, Doug, for your comments.
Okay. I have the floor though, okay? Commissioner Lyndon B. Johnson?
You through?
I'm done. Okay. Mike, I love you, but I'm sorry.
Intermission.
Don't be sorry, I understand, but I just don't think, I just want to get my feelings out there. You've not been over juvenile court other than in court. Thank you.
I'm over at juvenile court all the time.
Do I need to hit the gavel?
And I've seen that, yeah. But I've seen that. I mean, I'm in there as an attorney all the time.
Who got the floor?
Okay, Commissioner Mike Middleton is, let's see, who's on the board? Lyndon
I'm
Johnson.
on the board.
We look alike.
I just want to say that on Thursday at 2:00 we have NGO meeting, scheduled subcommittee meeting, and then on August the 29th at the David Raines Community Center they will have an open house at noon for the new facility that the parish built. It's a nice facility. You need to come out and see it, support it, because you helped build it. Far as what y'all was talking about, I won't talk about it today. I'll wait till Thursday. But we just need to be, as y'all told me the other day in the email, we need to be more civil. Thank you. I'm done.
I want to applaud President Dominic for his role, and Mr. Dominic goes to Caddo Parish.
Do what? Yeah.
Mr. Dominic goes to Washington.
Okay. Mike, Commissioner Middleton, you back on board? You need anything?
You offering it? No, I ain't pushing, but I'll take it. Doug, I love you too, brother. Let's get this on.
All right, moving on to our next item.
Citizen comments, late arrivals, I have no cards.
Move to adjourn.
Consent agenda, we're adjourned.
Thank you very much.